Hi, Tianyi. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on as a guest. Thank you for agreeing to my invitation and being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It'd be good to, start with a bit of, introduction to yourself, a bit about your background, where you are, who you are.
All right. My name is Tianyi Tian, and I'm the creator and manager of the global Mendix Training Partner Program. I've been with Mendix for almost 4 years now, and I live in Berlin. And overall, um, I work most of the time in home office, but I do kind of run the program across the entire globe. So yeah, it's a very fun job to do, and I'm very happy to be part of a great organization that is shaping the future of low code. Um, yeah, it's just also a very nice feeling to be on the podcast today.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a new experience for me. Right. So apart from showing demos or
Yeah.
presentations, right, and also that is
I always
speaking
love it when I
from my
invite someone
personal
and they say
perspective.
it's my
Yeah,
first time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And talking about obviously, yeah, you're at Mendix now, and we'll dive deeper into that. But I'd like to kind of rewind back to kind of your career early stages. What motivated you to kind of get into, where did you start? And also, when did you actually first come across Mendix? When did low code first kind of come in front of you?
Yeah, so that was back in 2018. I was studying in Rotterdam, the birthplace of Mendix.
Yeah,
And during one of the lectures at Erasmus University Rotterdam, the professor mentioned Mendix, right, as the overall, as part of an overall picture of what enterprises do nowadays in terms of digitalization and process automation. And and then there was a 5 minute section on Mendix, and I saw a few examples, and I thought, okay, this is something I could do, right? And
yeah,
by the way, I was not studying anything techy at
yeah,
back in the days. I was doing a program called Business Information Management, which is mostly management and a little bit
yeah,
of tech. And I just realized, okay, for me as someone who is coming from more of a business background, this is understandable. And I
mm,
also realized this is something that a lot of companies out there could use. Right? And I also have a little bit of personal experience with the pain, in IT projects before that already. So I was working at a Swiss pharmaceutical company, and yeah, I was in procurement, right? So
yeah,
doing some digitalization projects, and procurement is by itself not very sexy already,
yeah.
and the efforts there to get processes digitalized, also to modernize them, is very admirable. But the organization itself was not set up to be very digital. Yes, they use SAP, ERP, right? But
Yeah.
to have a large scale, digital landscape, IT landscape, you need to do a little bit more. Right? So I just realized, business and IT, they've traditionally don't work together. And with this new tool, with this Mendix platform, right, we kind of introduce a visual language that both sides can easily understand and work with. So I thought, okay, this is probably the future. Let's go for it. And then fast forward a few more years, after I graduated, I worked at Accenture, and was one of the first people, um, in DACH, right,
Yeah.
to raise their hands for a low-code project. Right? There was a project manager asking, "Is anyone familiar with low-code or Mendix?" And there was just like, you know, that, I mean, all at that point in Accenture DACH, and in that department I was in,
Mm.
most people were just SAP consultants, right? And
Yeah.
this was pretty new. So yeah, that was kind of a niche topic. So I just raised my hands, and I got in, and that was like a really cool career, because start of a really cool career, because suddenly, I was invited to big accounts who wanted to try out new technologies. Some very cool projects were offered to me, and yeah, and I also made the best out of it. So I remember there was a POC that I created with a international team. which we completed in just 9 weeks. And
Wow.
and when we presented the final MVP to the POs, right, on the customer side, that jaw dropped, and
Yeah.
that was just like a very, very cool experience. And they also asked me, okay, can you teach us how to do it? And I looked at my
Yeah.
manager. He said, yeah, yeah, I'll go for it. And I just went down to teach the customer as well. Um, and yeah, and over time, yeah, I grew the customer. Meanwhile, they're one of the most successful ones as well. It's not because of me, right? Not
Yeah.
only because of me, but
Yeah.
they all this customer also had a very a fantastic customer success management team over there to support everything, right, from Mendix side. Yeah, but over time, um, Mendix also got interested in
Yeah.
me, and then just said, do you want to teach more people more officially? And then I said, yeah, why not? And so I joined. So
That's
that was
amazing.
a lucky coincidence, a string of lucky coincidences, I would say. And I never looked back because it was super exciting, right? To go ahead all the time. And I started off as a trainer, and meanwhile, I tried to make it more scalable. So I was
Mm.
also given the chance to create a more scalable model out of the training business. So that's why the Mendix Training Partner Program was born. And meanwhile, I run it.
That's amazing. It's crazy how obviously because I think even still today in Germany, low code isn't huge, right? It's still behind most of Europe. So you going to Rotterdam, being exposed to Mendix for a very short amount of time, and then
All
someone
five
in
minutes.
Germany, yeah, 5 minutes, yeah, 5 minutes defined your career, right? So
Yeah.
basically, that 5 minutes, you would have been like everyone else in that room who said, "Oh, do you want to try this low code thing?" And you would have been like, "What is it?" Maybe you wouldn't have put your hand up, So it's it's crazy to see that that 5 minute introduction to Mendix stuck with you, and then it was presented to you at Accenture, and that's now kind of how you've built a career. You've kind of grown your career. Now you're working for Mendix. So it's just it's crazy how kind of life ends up.
Yeah, indeed. And but this is actually also a general piece of advice for any aspiring developers out there, right? Just don't always go with the mainstream. Sometimes look for what's interesting out there. Sometimes you just end up in a niche technology that could become huge somewhere, and whether it becomes super mainstream or not, that is a different question.
Yeah,
Right. I think right now Mendix is in its 20th year and still considered quite niche in most parts of the world. But for your personal career, I think being a specialist in a particular technology that has great value, but not a lot of people know it yet, that's going to be a great opportunity further down the road.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And in your role with Mendix, what's the most common transformation mistake you see when companies are adopting Mendix?
Oh, I mean, this varies very much from region to region,
Yeah,
from customer to customer. But if there is a little bit of common ground in terms of lack of investment or lack of focus, I would say it's probably the people part, right? So a lot of times. Um, Customers buy a Mendix license, solve a few particular problems, and they're happy.
yeah,
And a lot of times, what I see is, they buy the license, they hire a partner, and the partner delivers fantastic projects in a very short amount of time, and they're very happy about the result, and then they go over to maintenance. What they're lacking here is, I mean, it's the vision, right? That they can go way bigger with Mendix. Right? Mendix is a very, very powerful platform, and virtually there's no limits to what you can build with it. And if I look at the entire range of customers we have customers who have one or three apps are running. Right? And then there are customers who have tens or even hundreds of apps, and there are a few customers who are approaching the 4 digits mark. Right? So
Wow.
we have very, very different leagues,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
want, right, in terms of Mendix adoption. And a lot of times I see that customers struggle to think of more examples, more use cases beyond the
Mm.
initial 2 or 3, and this is leaving money on the table, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Because you buy a very nice platform, you just use it a little bit. This is like buying a um, Ferrari and you just take it out for a spin once a year.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, also Mendix is not a Ferrari. It doesn't, appreciate in value if you just put it in the garage,
Yeah.
right? You need to use it to drive value.
Yeah.
So the more apps you create, and the more apps you create on your own with more, that are more focused or in alignment with your company landscape, the more value you can drive, right? And overall, it's exponential growth, right? So if you're stuck in the very beginning, right, in the first 3 apps, you're capturing this much value. But if you go for hundreds of apps, then the value really skyrockets to the more apps you do. And when I'm not talking about creating the same app over and over
Yeah.
again, right? Because I sometimes because due to the size of organizations, we also see that this department in Brazil creates the same app as that's already been created somewhere in Europe already. That also happens sometimes, but overall, we're talking about scalable adoption, creating reusable components, right, and saving time and resources on every project while making use of the new features that Mendix offers, release after release and driving innovation like this. So this is what I don't see with a lot of
Yeah.
customers, and it starts with not investing enough in people. Right. So and I would say this is the foundation that a foundational mistake that a lot of customers oversee. And yeah, I think this is worth highlighting.
Yeah, yeah. And flipping that around to, customers that get it right, there's obviously, I think, there's a learning curve for a lot of them, but what are some best practices you've seen of customers who've actually got it right and they've gone on, to have, an ongoing, I wouldn't say successful, but ongoing successful kind of journey where they've started right and carried on building successfully.
Well, a few really committed customers who've done it right, and these are also the customers who've invested a lot in their own people and also reached the 3 digits mark of
Yeah,
overall app count. Um, they have made sure to also consider Mendix as a core skill, right? So they have involved their internal learning organization to place Mendix as a core skill people can, put bluntly, gain learning hours on, you know.
yeah.
And this also shows we're opening up Mendix to everyone, so people with ideas, once they fuse their ideas with Mendix skills, they have the potential to create fantastic apps that will drive a lot of value for the initially probably just the department, but over time those apps could also become templates, right, for other departments to
Mm.
use, right? Because in a successful Mendix adoption, a lot of apps are a lot of projects, right? They are standing on the shoulders of previous giants, and over time, we want to have a lot of mature apps serving as best practices. This is what we call lighthouse apps, right? To serve as inspiration for other departments to adopt. And to drive those kind of projects, we need people who really understand Mendix from a foundational level on, right? So they have a good grasp of the best practices, the performance issues, what can go wrong, how to mitigate those risks, right? And they are usually also the most vocal advocates inside those companies because they've understood what kind of value they can drive. And it's usually what we see is initially people are skeptical right?
Yeah.
You probably, especially you, should know a
Yes.
lot of the experienced developers say, yeah, it's just a toy.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced. And then the business people say, ah, this is something for IT people we don't want, right? But over time, once once they've gathered a few projects, project experiences, they become convinced. And then the question is, why haven't we started with Mendix in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And then become the loudest voices. So we see this transition, happen automatically over time. And yeah, but you don't have this kind of champions helping you drive Mendix
Mm.
adoption if you don't give them the access to trainings in the first place, right? So that once again, the best customers have really paid attention to proper training, early, and they've tried. They also trained the right people, right? And over time, the seeds that you saw very early on, they will end up being the most effective people to drive Mendix adoption in your organization, and they'll help you save resources, time on every project, right? So that's
Yeah.
the success journeys that we've witnessed.
Yeah. And I think it's also, yeah, I think that the training piece where I think a lot of people don't give enough attention because what they don't realize is when you're starting new, if you get that training wrong, those developers that are skeptical will remain skeptical and they will then move on looking for roles. Obviously, if the company's adopted Mendix now, that's the direction they're going in. But the developer
Yeah,
doesn't have to stay and work with the platform. They can just find something else and continue. So I think that early learning piece is crucial to make sure they also understand how much they can do with the platform and they're not limited and it's not for the little toy stuff. And, that's where I think a lot of people don't focus on when that's probably the most important piece in the beginning.
yeah. I mean, Mendix is not just yet another software in blue that you throw
Yeah,
money
yeah,
at and an app comes out. That's not for how it works, right? Mendix is primarily built for developers as well, right? So it's, at the end of the day, still people who are working with the platform to drive value. So if you don't have the people, if you don't invest in people who can drive this platform, right, to leverage this platform, then I'm sorry, Mendix is not yet an AI platform where you just yell at it and then it somehow does create an app automatically for you. I mean, maybe we can dive a little bit into that later, what
yeah,
AI will do
yes,
for you as an organization. But from my own experience, also, so when it comes to investing in people, there are also a few things I want to highlight. So sometimes organizations they're really eager, right, to invest in training, and then they say, okay, we need to get training done, and then they
yeah,
open up the training to everyone. But here they also need to be a bit careful, right? Because sometimes you actually want to get the project team trained, and then the rest of the organization is seeing those free training slots for Mendix, and they're like, ah, yeah, let's get the learning credits, right? But
yeah,
then the actual project team that needs to get trained is not getting the training, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then you're like, okay, now we have a project delay because
yeah,
the right people can't get the right trainings. And another thing, and this is actually also a very common theme I see among customers is, they have this fear of certify and fly. Have you heard about it? No?
no,
Okay. So certify and fly is kind of an effect when people get certified and then they think they qualify for higher salaries. And if they don't get the
yeah,
salary,
okay.
they go
Now I know what
somewhere
you're
else,
talking
right?
about. Yeah,
So certify and fly. And the thing is, yeah, this is something that the company, the employer also needs to think about, right? It's not enough to just offer training and pray that people will stay on the same project and that's it.
yeah,
Organization need to think in terms of career paths right away from the start, right? Because it's not so once again, Mendix is not a platform where you throw money at it and app comes out. It's it's it will fundamentally change how your IT department works, right? How and who is considered IT department in the future? And with that, right, with that overall conceptual change of how IT is being driven in the company, you also need to think about how careers can evolve over time. So we need to say goodbye to the old days where a project is maybe ideated by ideated by business and implemented and executed by IT. Right? It's rather we will see more and more fusion roles emerge in the future. Right? Business people who also can execute directly with the platform. IT people who also have more business understanding throughout those fusion teams, right?
Yeah.
That will work on local projects, because we're working in agile teams. We are everyone needs to understand the vision of the app right away. Right, also needs to understand where the pitfalls are, where the risks are, and how to handle stakeholders. Yes, we have dedicated roles on those
Yeah.
teams, right? But the fundamental understanding must be there, and you can be a very focused person in a particular area of, for example, Mendix development, Mendix UX, or Mendix security in the future. And there might also be, Scrum Masters, Mendix Scrum Masters, where over time, have roles like App Factory leads, right? Transformation managers, right? These are the questions you need to solve whether we want to introduce those roles, right? Will these people have a visible path after the certification, right? If people get certified and there's no path further for them, and they just solve one or two problems on a project, they're not going to be long term with you,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing. It's not only about certification, right? It's always about the long term development of the organization and how to invest in those developers.
Yeah. 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 That's amazing. And talking about, you started this training program, and can you tell me kind of, when it started, what was your vision? How has it evolved? And what kind of, impact are you seeing on the customer enablement side?
Yeah. So initially, we used to teach Mendix by ourselves, right? So the training partner
Yeah.
program is part of Mendix Academy. This is the enabler of the Mendix community. And initially, there are just a few trainers, right, teaching from Netherlands and the US, and that's it, right? So we're covering a very, very small portion of the world.
Yeah.
But we want to grow globally, right? So with global expansion, we also face language barriers, cultural barriers, and yeah, so we just at some point just can't handle trainings in a very different time zone, right?
Yeah.
Our trainers sit in on East Coast in the US and in Rotterdam and sometimes in Berlin. That's me,
Yeah.
right? So the entire APAC area is out of scope for us. Right.
Yes.
So we wanna make sure that we have dedicated training partners around the globe who can help us really teach people. Right. Also training partners because at Mendix we want to focus on the product, we want to focus on customer relationships, and there are companies who have a lot of Mendix project experience out there who are just who can't wait to share them, right?
Mm.
And we identified those companies and we checked their skills and we then passed on our training standards to them. And meanwhile, right, we have a global network of training partners who can help us, bridge the gap or break through the language and cultural barriers. Because sometimes, if you, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dutch people. Dutch people are very
Yes.
direct and
Yep. I
they tend
am
to joke
very,
around a
yeah.
lot, right? And if you have such a very direct trainer, throwing jokes and challenging people in a Japanese audience,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're gonna make a lot of people feel very intimidated. You're gonna
Yeah.
make a lot of people lose face because people also don't have the habit to ask a lot of questions, right? People
Mm.
rather in the Japanese audience, you might rather have a lot of people just taking notes
Yeah.
and then at the end of the training, they still understand everything, right?
Yeah.
And they might ask questions afterwards. But
Yeah.
then for the trainer, it might be a bit strange, right? To
Yeah. Of
have
course.
no classroom interactions, and yeah, and then for the Japanese audience, if they can't answer a question right away, they lose face. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing, right? And they don't want to do that. Of course, I'm generalizing here as well.
Yeah.
So the cultural feel, in the local cultural sphere,
Yeah.
that is super important. That's why we also need to have local people who know the culture, who know how people give trainings there, and just pass on knowledge and standards, and have them run the show. And we also are very open to having them run their own show, right?
Mhm.
But the commitment is the same, right? We want to give good trainings, make everyone understand the best practices, get them to project ready as soon as possible. So that's the ask, and we also qualify them through our train the trainer program. Right? But that's probably going a bit too much into detail already.
Yeah. Yeah. But talking about this, and that's a great thing. I think obviously the culture thing is great, right? Because everyone's different. And it's important to understand that, and that's a good strategy to go. How do you maintain the training quality at that scale across so many, geographies?
Yeah, well, good thing is all those training partners still have English speakers, so we
Yeah.
can stay in
Yeah.
touch with them. And we have, okay, then I think we do have to dive a little bit into the train the trainer program.
Yeah.
So this is a very rigorous program, right? That really tests the trainer, according to emergency situations. So in
Mm.
a lot of ways, the program is set up as, kind of like a driving school.
Okay.
You can have a lot of driving instructors out there, but and you're not, and yeah, everyone goes through the same foundational training
Mm.
and to become trainers, right? And so everyone has received the same instructions, and everyone will receive the same kind of simulated classroom training as a testing environment when they do the final assessment. Right. So in those situations, we will grill them a little bit, reenacting all the scenarios, rather extreme scenarios we see in
Yeah.
the classrooms, right? Handling very diverse kind of crowd, for example, and the trainer's job is to really carry across the entire course, uh, with precision and
Mm.
while being on time, but also being able to handle the entire crowd, right? Also knowing which questions are coming from the audience might be out of scope, right? Also
Yeah.
getting people, back on track who are a bit sleeping, right? So those kind of situations, I mean, we make it very realistic, but we do want the trainers to be able to not only explain Mendix, but also explain Mendix well while handling the entire classroom.
Yeah. What's the typical timeline for for someone to go through this train the trainer and become a trainer?
So there are three levels in Mendix certifications: rapid,
Yeah.
intermediate, advanced, and then there's also expert.
Yeah.
But the trainer program focus on the first three levels. That's usually enough for
Yeah.
for producing project teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, so to reach the first level, right, they first need to go through an application process, and then we do a pre-screening, and then there's around 2 months of preparation time, and then there's the final assessment. Sometimes, they, yeah, the candidate fails the first try, which is
Mm.
not at all, a bad thing, because
Yeah.
that just means we discover a few more areas the candidate needs to work on, right? And then we try as many times as necessary until the trainer is successful, right? Meets our standards, and then we can release the trainer into the wide world and have the trainer teach. And then the trainer can also come back right away to try the next two levels, right? So this entire process takes half a year, right?
Yeah.
Because also sometimes most of the times the trainers also have a day job to do. They're
Yeah.
usually
Of course. Yeah.
consultants,
Yeah. Yeah.
developers,
Yeah.
right? So they're also doing this part-time. But uh, most of the trainers that join this program, um, they already are very, very experienced. They have the passion to share the knowledge. So yeah, most of them really can't wait to get out there.
Yeah.
Our job is then to sharpen their training skills, to training delivery skills, and prepare them for any situation out there. So yeah, that's how we run the trainer program. So the
Yeah.
foundation, right, is the trainer program, and then once uh, the companies around the trainer also wants to commit to shape the ecosystem with us, shape the trainer foundation,
Yeah.
shape the developer foundation with us, right? They become training partners.
Yeah. And for, end customers who have these trainers, right, are you seeing that's helping them? Because obviously talent is an issue, right? And finding experienced talent can also be an issue. So do you see this as a way to bridge that gap and not having to always hire experienced people? You can bring in someone with no Mendix experience, but you've got these people who've been through this training who could really help with building in-house capabilities.
Well, luckily, a lot of those training partners, they are full-fledged partners in first place,
Yeah.
right? So they also have consultancy capabilities, and they have their the developers who can also teach, right?
Yeah.
So it's the ones who the training partners who can offer trainings, um, they can usually offer way more than just training, right? But
Yeah.
the difference to other partners is they can also offer training. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, training is additional kind of part of the service that completes the offering,
Yeah.
right? And we start with training the customer early, right, with those training partners, and over time, these people who speak on eye level with the
Mm.
partner team or the Mendix expert service team on projects, right? And over time they become champions themselves, and then they start growing the organization, help grow the organization internally. Right? So that's the sowing seeds part that I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so this is of course, also a coordination problem. Sometimes, people just want to get the project done. The CTO, CFO wants to see, very fast time to value.
Yeah.
So no time for training, no budget for
Yeah.
training, even though
Yeah.
this is the one crucial part you shouldn't save on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on obviously AI. It's a topic that, every conversation involves AI. You can't have a conversation without it. You know, I'm interested to know kind of your views on how you think the future will look on it, and but also, how you think it's going to change the way, developers and enterprises will even interact with Mendix.
I think it's already changing the way people develop. So what we see is people try out Maya, the Mendix AI
Yeah.
system, a lot these days before they touch anything else, right? And I also see that a lot of people are creating apps via prompts. And for me, I mean, for any business side person, this is absolutely fantastic, right? So finally,
Yeah.
we can just replace everyone, right? Just anyone can create apps. Oof, I can tell you this is not the right approach
Mm.
because at the end of the day, you need to be able to answer to anyone. Um, what the app does, why this app in this section is doing the right things, right? The business logic, do they check out, right?
Mm.
So if you generate an app via prompts, a lot of times you will not get what you want exactly, right? I mean, seriously, when is the last time you got 100% what you wanted from a
Yeah.
ChatGPT ask, right?
Yeah.
So you always need to do a little bit of adjustments. Always need to do a little bit of fine tuning, but knowing what good looks like, but knowing what the app actually needs to deliver, that's the important bit, right? Because um, AI will save you a lot of time. I think 80-90% of the time
Yeah.
on local projects, right, is going to be saved by AI. But the last 10%. that's gonna at a cost that's gonna make or break your project success, right? And you as a developer or a PO, you need to understand what AI spits out. And this once again requires foundational training, right? Foundational knowledge of Mendix, and yeah, I mean, we are already thinking about how to change the way we teach people at Mendix
Yeah,
Academy, right? So because we cannot neglect
yeah,
AI anymore. It's very much in your face when you open up
yeah,
Studio Pro. So people will use it, and it says
yeah,
AI is very flashy, right? And there's no shortage of advertising for it
yeah,
as well. Um, we just need to really spread this understanding that AI is your friend, yes, but you need to understand your friend, and I need to
yeah,
understand what AI does for you. And at the end of the day, algorithmic accountability is going to be a key question you need to solve in compliance checks,
yeah,
right? At the end, any given point, you need to be able to answer to the CISO what your app does, where are the security risks, right,
yeah,
and how you're mitigating them. Um, the AI is going to help you, deliver the best possible result for your current prompt. But is your prompt comprehensive enough? Is your prompt good enough? Right? These are questions that you also need to, cross-check by yourself.
yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
I've also seen a lot of projects, before AI that have been created in a very, very messy way, right?
Okay.
Because I mean, previously, developers like to try out Mendix by themselves, and they also create great projects, no doubt. But sometimes if you look under the hood, it's super messy.
Yeah,
The project is very unorganized. And one of the best practices in Mendix is keep your app tidy, right? Keep it maintainable, keep it intelligible, right? So that not only you, but also the rest of your team and maybe future generations of developers can understand what you're doing. And this is something people unfortunately don't pay a lot of attention to.
yeah,
So once again, this is a people problem we need to pay attention to.
yeah. And do you think with AI, obviously, the new age developer, right? The more younger developers coming through, the more the more it evolves, that's how they're gonna learn, right? Kind of how to do
Yeah.
development. Do you think that the new age developers will end up being less rounded developers versus people who've kind of learned the traditional way and come in and understand everything in detail versus the new kind of generation heavily focused on AI assisted? Do you think that's going to affect, the level of developers out there, or do you think it'll just become the norm?
Um, I think yeah, this is a philosophical one, I think. Uh, I think it very much depends on how thorough a person wants to be
Yeah.
in Mendix development. I mean, there's always a range, right? There are
Mm.
people who would like to just connect all the new features and create the shiniest thing, and usually
Yeah.
these are also the people who get the most investment.
Yeah.
But then again, there are for the long term, right? For the long-term survival of any app, any project, you need to have people who are responsible. You need to you need to have the adults
Yeah.
kind of watching over the project, right, and saying,
Yeah.
okay, guys, if you do this, the performance of the app is gonna go like this,
Mm.
and yeah, creating an app versus driving value with an app, long term, that's I think they need to be more interconnected, but they also need to be treated a little bit separately. Uh,
Mm.
coming to a POC with AI is going to be very easy in the future. Right? You write few lines of
Yeah.
prompts, and once you know what the app is doing, you also know how to optimize it. Yeah, you can reach the MVP even faster. I mean, in my very second project, that was a POC done in 9 weeks. I mean,
Yeah.
in the future, I can also foresee that a POC can be done within days. Right?
Yeah.
Still, we need to. I think there are still a few things we need to do manually for example, all the connections, right? Requesting all the access points, right? Setting up the APIs. You need to understand how to do those things fundamentally, because at some
Yeah,
point when things break, you need to know where to fix, right?
exactly.
Um, so, I think a foundational training is never wrong. Getting to know the latest and greatest features is never wrong. It's about finding the balance, right? And keep exploring and keep learning. What's the best practice, because they also evolve, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That should be the continuous guideline for all the good developers out there.
Yeah, yeah. And with things kind of evolving, you know, in the last how many years, and things are changing, and you know Mendex is forever evolving as well. What are you kind of most excited about? For the future of Mendex, for the things you see and you expect to see.
Well, I think now that Mendix is really big on integrating Gen AI, Mendix is going to be a platform where a lot of professionals can future-proof themselves. Right. So this is so with low code you have a very easy entrance into the IT world. Right. For example, for me,
Yeah,
I didn't study anything IT, but then
yeah,
I transitioned from the pure business side to business and IT aggregate, right?
yeah,
And so having half a brain for business, half a brain for IT, we're gonna see a lot of this kind of roles emerge. And with the advancement of Mendix and AI integrated, um, we can see a lot of highly valuable professionals driving innovation with this kind of skill set. Right? So I would say once people learn Mendix on a larger scale, right, we will have a new breed of developers who can really bridge the
yeah,
gap between business and IT and work so fluidly, um, without being replaced by AI, because they master the AI, they control the AI, right?
yeah,
So I think that's the really exciting thing about the future of Mendix.
yeah, definitely. And for someone who's like for developers who are, I'll ask you a twofold for developers and organizations, right? So for developers who are starting out, and want to build a long-term career, what advice would you give them, today? And also on the flip side, for organizations who are starting out, you know how would you prepare them for success?
Hmm. Okay, so for developers, I think the one advice I would give them is don't waste too much time exploring everything. Sometimes you just need to look at some of the docs, some of the learning paths, or the courses that we created, or get a training, right? Because I've heard very
Yeah,
quite often from very experienced developers that they've been trying to solve a problem for a very, very long time, and they've done certain mistakes repeatedly over a longer period of time, and then I just point them to a learning path where this particular problem is covered, and
yeah,
they're like, oh, this could have saved me so much time on that one particular project 3 months ago, right?
yeah,
So look for the things out there that are already done for you, that are already explained for you, right? And Mendix is easy, and sometimes it might be um, you might be tempted, to build things very fast. But sometimes, especially in those cases, think whether you're really really understand why the app is doing that for you, or why the platform is doing certain things for you, and really focus on the fundamentals in the beginning.
yep,
Once you get the fundamentals right,
yeah,
um, then you can explore with more confidence, and then you can also develop apps that will not fall apart.
yeah,
Once someone challenges it, or does a pen testing with it. And now for organizations, I would say don't waste too much time, or don't wait too long with investing in your own people, because the earlier you invest in your own people, the earlier you're going to see the benefits of properly trained developers in your organization. The earlier you can scale with Mendix, the earlier you have, scalable value generation. Because at the end of the day, truly successful customers, they have, a really large amount of internal developers, internal Mendix community in the thousands, right? And they have hundreds of apps, and they have internal marketplace with reusable components that really fit their internal IT landscape, right? And templates that they can use on every new project. So all the apps, they look like, it's created from a central IT, but
Yeah.
they're actually developed by by the various business units very far from the central
Yeah.
IT. Right. So there's harmonization. There's one standard, process to manage all the apps. There's little to no shadow IT, and yeah, so that's where success starts. Right. So shaping understanding for good managed development, right, and having the right people driving it, having the right trained people driving it. I think that's you know what shapes successful companies in the end.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I appreciate you speaking to me, taking the time and sharing your experience, your advice, your insights for, developers and businesses. I know there's other things you're working on, which are early stages that we'll hear about in the future, when they're announced. But it was great to speak to you. Even just hearing how 5 minutes defined your career is quite spectacular to hear, right?
Absolutely.
So some
Yeah.
people study 4 or 5 years and 5 minutes of it changed your career, so it's great to hear that.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm still amazed by itself.
Yeah, I could imagine. Amazing. And maybe just a final question about, you being in Germany, and
Yeah.
obviously Netherlands is low code heavy, right? It's very well
Yeah.
known. A lot of customers know it. It's most people, if you said Mendix without even mentioning Siemens, they will know, right? In how are you seeing the landscape in Germany evolved? Do you feel like from our side as a recruitment company, the developer pool isn't big, right? It's very small. It's more so about trying to convince people to learn versus trying to find experienced people. You being there on the ground, what are you kind of seeing?
Yeah. So I think generally digitalization in Germany is a hot topic that's being joked a lot,
Yeah,
joked about a lot, right?
yeah,
And so I would say in terms of Mendix adoption, Germany is 8 to 10 years behind.
mm, wow,
I mean, Germany is a industrial country, right,
mm,
with emphasis on industrial like
yeah,
machineries and
yeah,
software. I mean, we have SAP, right? That's about it.
yeah,
I mean, there are a few others like tax software and architectural design, right? Like Datev and Nemetschek, those kind of things. But when it comes to foundational innovation um, in the IT space, people are a bit cautious still, and I'm still surprised how many companies treat agile as something optional.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And the thing is, those topics are being so agile, and modern ways of development are being talked about at universities and at gaming conventions or in IT magazines. I mean, we do see, low code also being dropped from time to time, but people are
yeah,
still very much in the skeptical phase. Right. We
mm,
see the community grow though, right? Quite fast as well because more and more people collaborate with Siemens. Siemens is setting the standard
yeah,
for industrial software, and with the more Siemens products you have, the more Siemens collaborations you have, the more you also hear about the Siemens software package with the accelerator
yeah,
package and so on, and Mendix placed as part of that, right? But it's also kind of the problem because, for example, our system is presented as a standalone
yeah,
platform. Mendix is kind of, it's also part of
yeah,
Accelerator.
yeah,
That's so Siemens is both the driver and also the limitation a little bit
mm,
for Mendix, in my opinion. But yeah, we need. But then again, the emphasis on IT adoption in Germany is something that the policymakers have to emphasize on way more, right? It's a push way more for this kind of education in high schools already, right? High schools, universities, and create an ecosystem where companies are more IT obsessed, right? And don't treat foundational development or in-house IT as optional. Right.
Yeah.
So there I mean there are so many sides to the problem. I think this is another conversation, of at least an
Definitely.
hour.
Yeah.
Happy to chime in on that one as well,
Yeah.
if there's this opportunity. But yeah, one step at a time, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, low-code space also has so many vendors, and
Yeah.
occasionally we also see some spillover effect. I live in Berlin, right? So here the startup scene is pretty vibrant,
Yeah.
and what I hear a lot is a lot of companies also use no-code platforms to create their
Yeah.
initial existence, the website, their app, the payment system, right? It's nice, but at some point you also stumble across the limitations of no code,
Yeah.
and then you also need to look at more scalable options, and yeah, it is then kind of a logical next step to look at
Yeah.
Mendix as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So things are in motion. That's the
Mm.
good part. It takes a while,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can be patient, and we want to also push the ecosystem a little bit wherever we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Well, I appreciate you, taking the time to speak to me. It was a great conversation.
It
We'll
was
keep in
absolute
touch,
pleasure.
and I look forward to see how things are evolving on the Mendix and the training side.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me once again.
No problem.